Awesome.
Okay, listeners, what a treat. Today we've got with us Jonathan Mills from, well, he's got quite an esteemed background, actually, certainly an esteemed spirit behind him and with him. The topic, again, is around how to build and cultivate that stress-free life. Does it land in our laps, or is it something we need to create and develop and grow? And particularly with this interview, I've asked Jon to join us to share the elements of physical health, nutrition, diet, and the part that plays in building a stress-free body and a stress-free life, really. Jon's got a really interesting background, which he'll share with us in just a minute. He's a businessman, homeowner, married man, father. So he's got a lot of candles burning his end. But yeah, it's a real gift to have him here with us today. So hey, Jon, just welcome, buddy.
Well, thanks for the lovely intro. I think you've put me on a pedestal there, so I better not fail in my delivery.
Yeah, could you start there, please, for people that don't know you? What give us a whistle stop tour of the background and bring us up to present day, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I was a footballer. I lived and breathed football. I would play at school. I'd play during lunch. I would go and play after school. I would play games Saturday, Sunday, get home from games and go and play at the park. And it was my passion. So I was fortunate enough to, when I was 16, to sign a professional contract with Cambridge United. And that was an apprenticeship. That meant moving home, living in Cambridge. Unfortunately, that didn't end the way I wanted it to, in that I wasn't taken into a full-time contract. And then I found myself, ironically, becoming a football coach. Always said I wasn't going to be. Never wanted to coach kids and work with kids. And that evolved into owning my own franchise. That football franchise then turned into a sports franchise. And I've been in the company as a franchisee for the last 20 years. So 3 franchises, none of them are in the location where I live. I've also bought and sold property. I owned a property business for 10 years, which I've just sold recently. And I've just launched a new community mastermind groups, actually inspired by Ben many years ago. That basically helps individuals and businesses to reach their potential. As well as that, my passion, if you like, is endurance athletic events. Recently, I've competed in a couple of Ironman races, travelled around the world a little bit racing. And just trying to sort of see how successful and how far I can actually push my body and see what it's capable of.
Perfect. You're married, Jon. You're a father.
Yeah, got Abby, my wife. The viewers won't know that Ben actually unofficially married us in Spain in 2015, which was very apt. And yeah, I've got a 7-year-old daughter. That we were just having a conversation off camera about some of the things that had gone on this morning in the household. So yeah, keeping me on my toes.
Great, buddy. Thank you. Right off the bat there, I love that stuff didn't end the way you wanted it to. And yet you've painted a picture, I would argue, infinitely more interesting than became a professional footballer, played for this club, played for that club, played football, but like the twists and turns that have resulted from you not technically getting what you want. The difference between what we need and what we want is huge. But what a fascinating place. And what I adore about you, and sometimes feel threatened by, is you just seem to take stuff in your stride that most people would find incredibly stressful. building a property business, running your own franchise, still being part of the franchisor makeup of that business as well. Being married, I mean, sheesh, we need a lot of hours per week just for that. And you describe. Hopefully, you'll watch the video of this and you'll see Jon's facial expression. Describe traveling around the world racing as like, yeah, I also like beef and onion crisps. Also travel around the world racing like that. Um, can you just share a bit about that? How I've just put that. Does that resonate with you? Is that how you look at it? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, Abby and I had a similar conversation yesterday, and around kind of she described it like I can kind of roll into things, and it's like I've been there forever. Maybe on the external, that's how it comes across, but internally, like everybody, there's fear, and there's worry, and there's the underlying gut wrenching realization that you might fall on your face and fail. I think I'm good at most things, which I think is really helpful, but actually can be a little bit frustrating sometimes, because I've spent lots of time doing lots of different things, and I think that can pull you away to try and find the thing that you're actually really, really, really good at. So yeah, I mean, I don't sort of have too much fear around sort of making changes. Certainly, when I'm comfortable, that's a threat. That's an issue. That's a flag. And when I'm comfortable, it's like, oh dear, like I need to change. Like when I get really good at stuff, it's like I need to look for something else and get uncomfortable. That's when I thrive. When I'm, when it's, in many ways, when it's stressful and when the shit hits the fan, that's when I'm in my element, which I'm not sure is actually is not always a good thing.
Yes. The two words I'd use to describe you actually are consistent and adaptable, which are contradictions in terms, really, because you would usually lend the word consistent to someone wanting to keep something the same. But knowing you for as long as I have, when you put your heart into something, you build it up to a point, and you're very, very consistent with leadership of that, I would say. And then when life deals you a whole set of cards that you weren't expecting, you're willing to pick what you can out of that and adapt in different ways. And they're two really desirable qualities of a character, I think. You're getting complimented left, right, and center here, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I would agree in terms of the adaptability. That I'm a bit of I think it's a chameleon is the term they use. I can be in a room and I can communicate and adapt to the environment, and yeah, I do that really, really well. Probably because I left home when I was 16 and I had to sort of find my feet. In terms of consistency, maybe externally it looks as though I am. I think internally that's definitely something. Consistency is and kind of rituals and what's the other word? And that's something that
Habits.
I need to.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, beg your pardon.
Habits.
Yeah, habits is definitely something that I need to. In my own mind, I need to improve, and I can see a correlation between. One of the bits of work I've done recently is around core values, and one of the guys in my group he pointed something out to me, which was a penny drop moment, and he made me realise that a key thing in my life is order, and having order and having clarity, order, sort of systems, knowing where things are is really important for success. And that then allows for consistency. So morning routines, going to bed on time, exercising regularly, what you drink, all really important for me, and something I'm working harder on now than I ever have.
Let's get into that, Jon. So I am an advocate. We here are an advocates of stress-free. Yeah, doesn't land in your lap. There's a holistic approach involving marriage, parenting, business, income, how you manage finances, as you put it, order, clarity, know where you're heading, your body, your health, what you put into your body. For me, any part of that and more being out of balance or you ignoring it will be the very thing that prevents you from going higher. So I know there are probably lots of people who'd like to argue with that. For me, a balanced life, a stress-free life involves the body, involves physical health. So you've just shared with us there that you're paying more attention to that than you ever have. Can you share with us why that's important to you? How, again, that is just like part of who you are, as long as I've known you anyway. Tell us about your health. What does that look like? What do you put in your body? Can we just focus on that for a minute?
So I think to underpin that, and this isn't a sales pitch, by the way, but for what we do in my new venture, which is very much a passion project at this stage, is there's a distinct correlation between having in your career or in your business life, the two works, in correlation, in the sense that if you can be smashing it out the park with your business and making massive profits, but if you're drinking too much coffee because you need to be fired up for the day, as I have been in years gone by, if then you're drinking a bottle of wine at night because you need to take the edge off your day, as I have done, and then your sleep goes wrong, it's not sustainable to continue to operate on that in that pattern. You can do it for short bursts, potentially to push through and gain success, but for long-term consistent evolution in life and business, the two need to work together. And that's definitely something that I continue to work on every day, and I wouldn't say that I've got it figured out, but I am getting better as I get older.
Can you let's separate food and nutrition and exercise for a minute. So give us a standard. Let's say you're not in training for Ironman right now. Give us a standard day of what you're putting into your body.
Yeah. So I follow a plant-based diet. I can't say I'm 100% vegan because we still have honey, and every now and again I'll have the odd egg. For me, the plant-based diet has worked really well. I operate really well on it, and it just feels as though, for example, when I was not plant-based, I would have like a 3 o'clock sort of fade in the day. I just don't get that anymore, and generally my weight remains at a good level consistently. So a typical day, first thing is I try and drink distilled water. So I don't know if anyone has ever seen what comes out of a distiller, but it's pretty horrific.
I haven't.
In terms of the chemicals and the heavy metals and all it's visible, you can see it. So distilled water, and then I remineralize that. I wouldn't say I'm anal about that. It's not like if I go somewhere and someone offers me a glass of water, I won't sort of turn my nose up. But in the main, what I consume is good high quality water. So porridge, oat milk, porridge, bananas, seeds, flaxseed, and then we take B12, vitamin D, and then I'll have like a milkshake, and the milkshake is made up of basically a sort of complex vitamins and minerals, just to kind of mop up anything that you potentially might miss. Lunch would be typically falafel and hummus, some veg with that, maybe some more nuts, and then throughout the day I'll drink like herbal tea, and my new thing as well is chaga. I don't know if you've seen them, chaga chunks.
I haven't.
So I've replaced coffee with chaga, just habit. I found myself drinking coffee for the sake of it, wiring myself up. I mean, a coffee basically is effectively a cup of stress. So you're stressing yourself, which makes sense. You fire yourself up for the day, and then So I've found that by drinking herbal teas and chaga, I'm more on an even keel throughout the day. And then evening meal would be generally like organic veg. I mean, Abby's an amazing cook, so we just have a multitude of different things each day.
John and I are not on the bash the non-plant-based diet people.
Absolutely not.
Right. let's just put a bit of a disclaimer in there. I'm ticking the boxes for with the exception of the remineralizing the water. What you've outlined there is like a typical day in our home in the Lepier household, and there's no doubt that I felt huge benefits from and that sluggish 3 p.m. Not that I don't like the taste of meat, and to be honest, coming off of meat I found really hard. We're talking sort of 5 or 6 years ago now. And I still might have meat occasionally, game, some venison, pheasant, but occasionally, like we had wild boar sausages on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
But we're talking very, very infrequent now. But I had to build up to that. But it's not that, I joined some vegan protest in the middle of Bristol around Christmas time and wanted to save the turkeys. For me, it was literally an experiment of, well, let's just be open to change. Let's just see what the fuss is all about, and let's see if my body feels any different and any impact of the reduction of eating meat. And again, I'm not promoting a lifestyle here. I'm just someone who I respect in terms of how they use their body and how they use food. How is that working for them? How is that working to a stress-free environment internally? That's what I care about here.
Well, I think what I would say is that it's a personal choice, and I wouldn't necessarily say that everybody has to be vegan. That isn't my message. My message is to whatever you're putting into your body is just to understand the consequence of that. So, if you drink a can of Coke, which I do every now and again, then you understand that initially you'll get a hit of sugar and you'll be on a high, but the downside to that will be a negative one on a longer term. Same with coffee. Sometimes I'll purposefully drink coffee, not recently, because I want to fire myself up. But it's just understanding the consequence. So if you're eating cheap food, then where has that food come from? So if you're eating cheap eggs, then those eggs are probably been not had a good existence. Now, if you're going to eat eggs, which again we do, get them from the farmer. And what I want to see is on the egg is I want to see I want to see the poo and the feathers and know that it's that chicken has been running around and had a good life. Because I think also if you're consuming an animal that has had a stressed life, then there is thinking that says that you're absorbing that stress that animal has had. So if you are going to consume those products, then just think about where you get them from. I'm not saying that you should be vegan or carnivore or whatever you choose to be.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not going to start waving a sign around that says, give plants life, give animals life. You've just made a relationship between making conscious choices with what you're putting in your body. So go ahead and put whatever the hell you like in your body. It's completely up to you. But where has that come from? It's not about saving the chickens, and letting them all be free. It's saying how that chicken's been treated, what they've been putting into their body, how they've lived, and now what's coming out of their body, you're going to put into yours. So that matters. It really all does matter. So go ahead and eat what you like, but you can't make a choice. What am I trying to say here? You can make a choice without knowledge. I don't care. I just want to eat eggs the way I want to buy them, blah, blah, blah. Just because you want to look at it like that, you're not spared of the consequences of what you're putting in your body. So ignore it, deny it, do whatever you like, make whatever choices you like, but you will endure the consequences whether you like it or not.
Correct. Yeah, and the same for for any plants that you eat. There's ideally, where possible, you want to be eating organic plants, because otherwise what you're actually consuming is a cabbage that's been sprayed with pesticides. So you're also consuming the pesticides as well.
Just gonna move on. What to put? I think that's the key message here, is just to become aware. That's enough of a step. This week, you might just check a label of what you're eating. We're not saying vegan or plant-based or meat. Is that completely up to you? But what you just take the time, just spend another minute looking at what's on the label, where it's been, where you're buying it from, how much the farmer might or might not be making, how ethically sourced is all of the food you're eating. And if someone's whacking an ethically sourced label on it, maybe just explore, what does that actually mean to that company? Because it might mean different things to different companies. So
absolutely,
be aware is the headline I'm taking from that.
Yes. Yeah. Just consequences. Yeah.
If we could just dabble in exercise right now, Jon. As long as I've known you, you've had a passion, right word?
Yeah. So for the last sort of 8-9 years, I've been racing pretty much year in, year out, focused on like half Ironman and full Ironman races. I'm sure everybody listening now understands what that is.
Can I stop it? You refer to it as races rather than just doing an Ironman. Why have you got the perspective of a race rather than someone who's just showing up to do an Ironman? How is it different to you?
So the first Ironman I did in 2013 was very much a midlife crisis. Just do an Ironman to get an Ironman complete. It's perceived as a big deal, which it is. But as I've sort of progressed and I've took part in more and more races, it has become naturally for me, I've wanted to be competitive. And the good thing about racing triathlon is that you can race within your age group. So you could be a 70-year-old man and you can still race against other people within your age category, which just means that you constantly have the opportunity to compete. The good thing with triathlon is that actually, as you get older, you build a bigger engine and you get better. So some of the guys that are in their 40s are absolutely unbelievable, and that just really tickled me. That got me excited. The fact that actually, even though I was getting older, I could become physically stronger and quicker and more efficient. My dream has always been to race at Kona, which is in Hawaii, which is the basically the epitome of triathlon. There's a real sort of spiritual pull towards Hawaii for me as well. And the last couple of years, sort of 2019, was a focus to get there. Didn't quite work out. And the thing with Ironman, in my own sort of opinion, is it's unsustainable to continue to train and race like consistently. It's such a big kind of stress on your body and also a time commitment if you want to do it properly.
Yes, and just again, you say that in passing, and you were just elaborating. What is the time commitment? What does training look like, so people can assimilate without knowledge what that actually means?
Yeah, so for me, a typical week would be around 15 hours. A big week would be 20 hours. And I would swim 3 to 4 times a week. That'd be an hour in the pool, a minimum of 3,000 meters. I would bike. I'd get on my bike, probably do 4 bike sessions, and then I would run 3 times a week as well. And then on top of that, I would do 3 strength and conditioning sessions. So the training itself, it sounds blasé, but it's actually relatively straightforward, because you have a program, you follow the program, you tick it off. A lot of the training is low intensity, so it's not sort of too damaging on the body as long as you're kind of careful. The key thing is everything around it. The key thing is sleep. Stress really affects your training. So what I realized recently was that if you'd had a stressful day, the worst thing you wanted to do was to then go and do another hard session, because mentally you haven't got the capacity to give all you need to give. So what I found was that is planning is as important as the actual execution of the training. So if I was working away, I would ensure that my sessions were really light. So I might go for a 30-minute jog rather than trying to, eat food on the way, drive for 3 hours, have a stressful day, and then do a good quality session. I would just tick a box. And actually, in many ways, the planning and the real and working life around training is the key piece. Another thing I would add, just to maybe just add a bit of insight, is that when I first started racing, I was very, very strict with it, and to the extent that when we travelled to Spain to see Abby's dad, I'd take my bike with me and I would stick to all my sessions. And looking back retrospectively, that was very selfish. And actually as I moved forward and as I got a little bit more mature, I'd leave the bike at home, and I would plan. Triathlon would come second, family would come first. And what happened actually was that it had no impact on my training and fitness. In fact, the fact we planned for it just meant it wasn't an issue. And the key thing was there wasn't the stress of getting on holiday and having to worry about racing and training. It was like, well, I'm not training, or if I am training, family's first.
I think a note here. I'd love to get your opinion on this. So most people listening might say, well, yeah, that's obvious to do it the other way around. You had already committed to applying yourself in this area in the way that you have, and you're like an all or nothing guy. And
Absolutely.
and the expression that just sort of springs to mind is you earned the confidence to say, now I have to prioritize family, because family is more important than my my desires to compete and race in Ironman. So, but it almost had to be that way around. You can't just fool yourself into feeling the confidence around that amount of training to say, oh, it'll be all right. We know where that attitude goes. It's one of the statements that absolutely kill me, because I make it often. Kerry just laughs hysterically when I say it'll be all right, because it never is. So yeah, I think just share with us a bit, like you had to earn that confidence of it'll be okay. I've already absolutely put all of my everything into that, and I know I can do it. Like, so you essentially built yourself a new platform of experience of what could be asked of your body. And at that point, when you felt confident, you could back off a bit with the training at least and say, I got to prioritize family first. I know I can do that. Can you share a bit around this?
Yeah, I don't think it balanced out. I think it actually enhanced it. I think the not having the worry and the constant in your mind of I've got to go and ride my bike for 2 hours, and then after that I've got to go and run. It's like I would go for, I would go out for food with the family, but in the back of my mind I'm like, I'm training when I get home. And how I sort of formatted that and reframed that was by just ensuring that if we were going out or if we were on holiday, it's like the holiday comes absolutely first, and it just allowed me to kind of put my training to one side. But when I came back to my training, I was fresh mentally. I was fresh. I'd had time with the family. It just made me better. Less is more. Absolutely, less is more.
So 2 points here. So I am what's striking me from this conversation with you is I am not clear about where I would like to be with physical fitness. So once a week I'll do about 5-6K run, get in some cold water on that run. I take cold showers every day. I weight train twice a week. So I'm doing on average about 3 things a week, but there's no real target, right? So, and that's okay. That's the way I'm choosing to apply myself in that area right now. And if I get a bit more time one day, I might stretch that run to sort of 8-9K. I've never been that big a fan of running. When I weight trained this morning, I ran up the garden here. It's only 50 meters, but I had like lead legs. And I know that if I would have chosen to run today rather than just go into the gym and push some weight, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it that much. You know, just some days, hoping some people resonate with this, you just wake up and you know you should go out and exercise. You've got a little bit of time and you just haven't got it, really. Do you ever experience days like that where you just haven't got it?
Yeah, and I think what's key there is that you have to be in tune with your body. You have to understand the difference between a bit of tiredness and actually this is a deep tiredness. So again, it's as important to say no to stuff as it is to just push through. In fact, it's more important. Most people that are in, that are in pursuit of excellence for endurance, that they struggle to not train. They're addicted to it. But actually, I think it's something like it takes 12 days to lose fitness. I don't think there's an actual specific measurement, but if you've done years of training, you not training for a day because you feel a bit under the weather or you've had a stressful day, it's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
So I think that's critical, to be in tune with your body. And if you have had a stressy day, or if the kids, if your family needs you, the best thing you can do is just put that session to one side. But critically is not to try and make it up, not to try and cram it in, because it just doesn't work. Because then you end up, you in your instance, you might miss your weight session. You might plan to do a run the next day. You might then put your weight session and your running in. And all that happens there is that you just overload on that day. You wake up in the morning, you feel sore, and you just like, oh, I'm not going to train today.
Yes, sorry, can you finish that sentence? Sorry.
So one of the things I heard, and we know it, all of us know it, but there was a workshop that I attended. I know you were on it as well, Ben, around like your moving average. So if you plotted out all the exercise you've done, and then you kind of zoomed out and you see that you're trending up, the key thing to not get fixated on is ticking the box every day and always getting it done. That's impossible. To be 100% is impossible. But if you're moving average, over a year or 6 months or 5 months or whatever it is trending in the right direction, it won't be a straight line, but if it's going up, that's success. And I think when you understand that, that's reassuring to know that actually you can miss days and you're not always going to have a good day. You do need to listen to your body.
That's so helpful. And just what I want to tag into here is, how do you sustain motivation? So we know that early after Christmas, people know they've overeaten. Typically, they're feeling the consequences of a poor diet during Christmas time, because Christmas sells you consume. And and moving into spring, people seem to find some additional motivation. It's just we've got a natural relationship with the season, so spring has an impact on everybody. How do you go from I need to lose like 6, 7, 8 pounds, so I'm going to just sort of run twice a week, and then you might lose 3 or 4 pounds, and then what plagues people is that hysteresis effect of your body's got used to that overweight situation, and it's just almost has this resistance and residual pull back. How do you create some focus and motivation to stick to it and be consistent? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it's all about having an end goal. So I tend to have projects now. So my previous project has been Ironman. My new project is running. I've had an injury which has kept me back from running. And I think that, yeah, for me that works. So if I know I've got a deadline, I know I've got a race coming up, and it's booked, that forces me to make myself accountable and to do that training. That's the first thing. I have a coach for everything I do. So that, and part of the reason to have a coach is because they will make me accountable, and I don't want to let them down. So if they set sessions for me, and I've paid for that, I've invested currency, then those sessions are going to get done. I think the other way of looking at it, and this isn't something that I have been able to relate to, it's how you feel. So there are people, lots of people out there that they train for feel. They train their overriding objective is to feel good, and that can't be quantified in terms of how fast you run or how how quick you finish a race or anything like that. That is something internal that you've got a connection with, and everyone's different.
Yeah, and I would, yes. Try not to give opinions. Thank you. Yeah, excellent.
So what I would add to that, and I don't know if you asked me this directly, but something that I've been playing with is building consistency. I think the key thing for me for that is that when you start, what you see a lot of is people smashing it out of the park. They're on Instagram, they're in the gym every day, they're hitting it hard. That isn't sustainable. Because if you're not planning carefully how you go, it just becomes too hard, and that's why people fall off. When you go into the gym in January, everyone's it's rammed. When you go in, by the time you get to March, half of those people have gone. And how I've done it, just cut to the chase, is that when I start a program, I just set it really easy. So so to give you an example, I'm back training for the gym, and I just set, one of the goals was like 3 times 10 press-ups. Now that's easy and I can do that, but the fact it's easy means that in my mind it's not something that I'm dreading. And then the next day I do 3 times 10, and then the third session that week I'll do 3 times 11. Just really easy. But by the time you've been doing it for a month, you're up to 20, as I am now. You've increased how much, you might have increased your dumbbells to 10 kilograms, and you might be up to 20 reps rather than 10 reps. But that consistency, it just feels easy if you plan it correctly and you set yourself up to win.
That I'm a big fan of Archetypes, and that, like, I'm absolutely sick of where I've got myself. Like, that comes from a warrior energy in men, and warrior energy is great because you'll get shit done short term.
Yeah.
But the key word is sustainable, and then we need some of that warrior energy, but the king energy is equally as important, because the king is wise. The king can see what's ahead, so the king makes a plan. For me, if I've diarized exercise, it will get done. I've just got that kind of relationship with my diary. And if I don't this is hilarious. A jail for me is if I don't diarize it, I'll say I'm absolutely not a feeler with this stuff, which is unusual because I'm quite an emotional man. If I haven't diarized it, I just back out so easy. I have to have it diarized the day before, and everyone has to be told. So there's a degree of accountability, because in my home, we would have made some space for me to go out and exercise. If it doesn't get in the diary, it's going to get filled with some other crap. So, Jon, I don't actually know the answer to this. If you don't mind, how does not super hyper training Jon mode affect your libido? What is the optimum libido, and does in the best shape you've ever been in your life, that's the easier way to ask this question, did that increase your libido, or did it decrease your libido? What's the relationship between performance of the body and desire for sex. Can you?
Yeah, it's a really, I think it's like anything to do with kind of fitness. The fitness comes with recovery. So you could be very, very, very fit, but if you're tired, then you're not able to utilize that fitness. And it's the same with your libido. So in my own experience, so if my libido is low, then it's because I'm tired. There's potentially like a deep tiredness within me, which is part of endurance training. It's part of course. But if I've had a couple of days off or a day off, then I would find that I can bounce back. But the key with the training that I do is that you need to be able to go and train every day. So it's getting the balance of how hard you're training, and that fine line is really important. So in theory, if you're getting it right and you work into a plan, whether that's your own plan or to a coach, it shouldn't really affect it.
Great.
It shouldn't.
It's and I might just be speaking for myself. What I find is when I'm paying attention to all the right stuff, my sex life improves dramatically. If I'm lazy in areas of diet and exercise, I'm getting a bit behind my personal optimum curve. I start looking at sex as an easy go-to, so I start to use sex more as that stress relief. And guess what? That's really unattractive for Kerry. Most of the conversations I have with men is she's not putting out enough. Okay, well, what are you doing to contribute and to take care of your own personal performance and health? Because an unhealthy guy, insert lots of facets of that expression, isn't attractive. Not being overweight, but how you're not paying attention to certain parts, and you just, because you've got an erection, you're expecting your partner to just be ready to go. And what I'm finding is there's a level of personal responsibility in, if I'm on my optimum curve, doesn't have to be perfect, just close to optimum, the way my relationship to Kerry improves and my relationship to sex improves, I'm not needing to use it. So the sex we do have is infinitely better quality than Kerry saying, okay, sure, I can see you want sex, so that's okay with me, but it's a different kind of sex. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's I think there's people don't have to, men don't have to be shredded. They don't have. But I think if they're trying to take care of them, I mean, everyone's different. I think I'm an ectomorph. Like I'm naturally lean, so I won't develop big muscles. But I think if you're seen to look after yourself and to attempt to do that, then I think that's attractive. And
that's the word, yeah.
I think that resonates with most women.
A guy who takes care of himself. Don't need shredded, guys. Just need responsible, conscious choices and focused on where you're heading. Done a lot of episodes about money in this first season. And what came out of people around the subject of money was you got to get clear on where you want to be. Stuff just doesn't happen by default. It's by design. And that design doesn't have to be perfect. You've given us an example right at the top of the call where you had some designs on where you wanted to go and life dealt you something different, but then you adapted and you modified and you just went with the flow. How often I've gone against the flow. So yes, just that's been a brilliant session for us, Jon. Can you please just give us your let's ask you for the top 2 things that a guy from a standing start right now could do with his diet and his exercise to improve that. Then I've got one more question at the end.
I think it relates back to what I was saying about your exercise. Just start, simple. Set yourself up for success. So I never, whenever I want to make change, which I constantly do, I never try and do it all in one go because it's too for me it's too stressful to do.
Overwhelming.
That.
Yeah.
So So for example, coffee. So I stopped coffee. That was relatively straightforward. I also wanted to stop drinking, or to certainly make that better. But I didn't tackle them both in one go. I just said, right, let's win. Let's win. So coffee was relatively, or has been relatively easy for me. I have had a couple of cups of coffee to get myself fired up. So I've used them for a purpose. I didn't enjoy them. So if you've got 10 things you want to change in your life, just focus on one and get that right. And once you've done that, I think they say it's like, is it 19 days or maybe 29 days? I can't remember, to build a habit. Get that done, and then move on to the next. You know, if you have 2 sugars in your coffee, have 1.5, and then just chip away at it. If you want to run a marathon, then start with 5 minutes every day and build it by a minute each day. Just bit by bit by bit.
That's enough. I love the expression, that's enough. Just focusing on one. You nail one, it has a ripple effect on all the other 9. Absolutely. Anyway. So yeah. Don't tackle the 10, tackle the 1. Love that. Jon, can you give us top book to help with this kind of stuff? And then could you just plug any of your resources that people can go and explore to find out a bit more about what you're up to?
Yeah. So top book. You've got me there.
Or just a book you've liked in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years that had an impact on you.
Yeah, so I can't remember what it was called now. There was an endurance book, and it was around the mentality of endurance athletes, and it talked a lot about stress. I can't for the life of me remember.
It's all right. We'll put it in the bio notes. We'll put a link to it.
Yeah. So that was excellent. I would also say Rich Roll's book. He's a podcaster. He puts out really good content. So I would definitely say dial into him. Don't necessarily need to read his book, but it's good. And then what we Ascend 360 is a community helping individuals and people in business. Part of it is mastermind groups. Part of it's some one-to-one coaching. It's a collective. It's a community of people that are trying to get better, including us. So if you're interested, reach out.
Great, buddy. Thanks, Jon. That's been great. I'll put all that stuff in the notes so people don't have to jot anything down if they're driving or whatever. Thanks for your time, bud. That's been beautiful. Pleasure. Perfect. Have a great day, mate. Thanks so much,
mate.
Jon. I'll see
Cheers,
you in a
guys.
bit. Bye.
See ya. Thanks, mate.